You're probably watching this because you're bored or you're trying to avoid boredom. But is that a good idea? Today I want to talk to you about how boredom can be your superpower, and when you lean into it, you can stop being a mindless drone just like everyone else. And before we dive in, I just want to mention that this video isn't going to be like most of the things you find on YouTube, designed to keep you engaged and distracted. Instead, I want us to slow down and take some time to really think about these ideas, to really understand why boredom is your superpower. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to discuss how boredom relates to creativity, a clearer mind, daydreaming, and lucid dreaming. So why exactly do we avoid boredom? Now, you may think that's an obvious question with an obvious answer, but it's actually multi-layered, and when you break it down, you start to realize that actually it's not as simple as you think. Now, the first most obvious answer is that we've been conditioned to do so, especially in the modern world. Whenever you start to feel bored, you'll simply reach for your phone to engage in social media, any of the digital distractions that will keep your mind occupied. Rather than sitting in a moment of silence, we feel like we have to do something. And there's a societal element to this as well. Society tends to value productivity above relaxing and thinking and contemplating. And there's this unspoken rule that if you're doing nothing, you're lazy or useless or not a valuable member of society. So even when we're wasting our time doing something which has really no value, such as scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, we feel better than confronting our own thoughts. And let's face it, confronting our thoughts can be a little bit anxiety-inducing. When you're bored, you're kind of forced to think deeply, to introspect, to look at who you are, why you think the things you do, what's going on in your life, and for many people, that can be a little bit frightening. We've also been conditioned for instant gratification. Click this, get this now, get these instant results, fast delivery, you name it, pretty much anything you want, you can get some form of it almost immediately, which means that boredom is the opposite of what we're conditioned to want. But boredom actually reflects the reality of self-growth and nature and the mind. Most things of value take time to attain, and boredom can remind you that you may not be where you want to be in this moment. Or, in other words, it's easier to distract yourself and ignore reality than it is to face the truth about who you are in this moment, right now. And then there's the classic FOMO, fear of missing out. Now, social media does a great job of this. It makes you feel that if you're not engaged, if you're not scrolling, then there's something really important that you're missing. And there is something really important you're missing right now. You. Avoiding boredom is essentially avoiding getting to know yourself. And instead of that, you throw yourself into a kaleidoscope of distractions and entanglements, never truly understanding who you are. You're letting other people do the thinking for you. And in a strange, ironic twist, society's obsession with productivity means that we've actually codified boredom in certain acceptable ways, what we call meditation, which is essentially trying to use boredom in a productive way, which is all a little bit backwards and kind of ignoring the value of free-flowing thoughts. Think about meditation for a moment. What is it actually when we break it down? It's essentially boredom with a goal, productive boredom, which is kind of the wrong way of thinking about things. The true power of boredom, the true power of introspection, is actually in its fluidity, in its openness, in its freedom, in the ways that you can discover things about yourself without being goal-orientated. So let's dig a little deeper into what actually happens in the brain when you're bored. When you're constantly focused on tasks and goals, a part of your brain called the executive network is activated. Now, this is very goal-orientated, very productive. It's essentially the part of your brain that you're using most of the day. When you slip into boredom, a different part of the brain comes into action. It's called the default mode network. And this is where daydreaming, mind-wandering, and creativity arise. So by stepping away from the constant noise and pressure of the executive network, we can allow the default mode network to take over. And this is a space where new ideas arise, where creativity flourishes. It is freedom, it is flexibility, it is fluidity. It's essentially the brain dreaming whilst it is awake. So you can see the connection here with lucid dreaming. When we're in REM sleep at night, we're essentially swimming through the ocean of the default mode network, something we're not used to doing when we're awake. So avoiding boredom isn't just avoiding dull moments. What you're actually doing is avoiding an entire creative wellspring of yourself, a vital part of your identity. Boredom isn't a thing, it is a version of you that you've been avoiding, and other people have been taking the role of your subconscious mind, your default mode network. The better you understand your default mode network, the better you understand the currents behind your mind that are influencing your choices, influencing your expectations, making you who you are in this world. And I want to be clear here, I'm not setting up a dichotomy between the executive network and the default mode network as if one is better than the other. Both are tools the brain is required to use to survive in this universe. Only our society and our lifestyle means that we focus exclusively on the executive network, which can lead to burnout and lead to a sense of detachment from who you truly are. For most of us, our only experience of the default mode network comes in non-lucid dreams during REM. Actually, having a lucid dream is inviting the executive network into the realm of the default mode network. So you can see that both are valuable here, and you can't actually have a lucid dream without the executive network understanding and working with the default mode network. But if you are completely detached from your mind wandering, your boredom, your quiet moments, your introspection, your executive network is completely at a loss when it comes to understanding what goes on in the subconscious, the default mode network, in your truer self. So let's get practical. How do we turn boredom into a superpower? Well, the most obvious first step is to stop choosing external distractions over self-reflection. When you find yourself bored and reaching for your phone, decide to not scroll through social media. Instead, feel at peace to simply observe your mind, to let your mind wander. There is a power in daydreaming that you haven't tapped into yet. And this requires a level of something which is called metacognition, which is really nothing more complicated than thinking about how you think, being observant of your own thoughts and behaviors. So as you go through the day, be aware of your reactions, how you behave. And when you find yourself falling into distraction, choosing distraction over boredom or mind wandering or daydreaming, stop doing that. Allow yourself to fall into the default mode network. At the beginning of this video, we discussed all the ways in which boredom is seen as a bad thing. But you need to let go of those. You are not lazy if you are understanding who you are. That is a very valuable thing in this world. You are not lazy if you stop allowing other people to have your thoughts for you. That's what you're doing when you outsource this to social media. You're simply letting someone else daydream for you. Here's a very simple practice. Carry around with you a notebook about the size of your phone and a pen, and when you want to reach for your phone, instead pick up your notebook. Then allow your mind to wander, to daydream, to flow wherever it wants to flow. Doodle, write notes, record the things your mind does in these moments, and consider it a daydream journal. By leaning into boredom, you gain superpowers and avoid becoming a zombie. And there are many ways these superpowers will present themselves in your life. Firstly, you'll have a much deeper understanding of how your mind works, your expectations, your beliefs, your urges. These are things that are vital for lucid dreamers when aiming to have deeper dream control. Secondly, you'll become more observant, more aware of the world around you. Your mind slows down, you're less cluttered, and you'll start to notice what other people are saying. You'll start to notice your environment more. You'll be less prone to being single-minded, single-focused. Thirdly, your nightly dreams will calm down. At the moment, your brain is overloaded at night. You're doing all of your dreaming during the nightly hours. This makes lucid dreaming much harder. Allowing yourself to daydream in waking hours frees up some of that mental space when you are dreaming at night, allowing for a higher chance of lucidity. Fourthly, your creativity will flourish. In those moments where you're allowing your mind to wander, where you're allowing new thoughts, new connections, new abstractions to take over your mind, insights and answers to your questions will simply bubble up. And finally, you'll become more relaxed, present, and awake. You'll be more in tune with who you really are. This isn't a goal-orientated practice. That's the wrong way of thinking about this. This is building a relationship with a part of yourself that you've been ignoring. So here's a challenge for you right now in this moment. You came to YouTube to be distracted, to avoid boredom. Take 1 minute when this video is over simply to close your eyes and self-reflect. When you're done, come back and write in the comments where your mind went, how it felt. And if you want to explore your mind and lucid dreaming further, you can watch one of the videos on the screen right now. I'm Daniel Love. I'll see you there.